Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of The Equalizer, a great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we get introduced to Robin, obviously finding out that she was ex-CIA, and it seems like it's relatively soon that she's left behind, because obviously it's like her aunt, Vi, is thinking like, oh, like she left her charity job, even that's what her daughter thinks as well. But it's like obviously the charity being a front for her CIA work. So obviously showing that no one in her family knows, and which I guess, being kind of covert, like stuff like that kind of comes with the territory. But it seems like basically she quit like a month ago, or at least, yeah, something like a month ago, because whatever went down in Venezuela, she was talking to Bishop, who's played by Chris Knopf. Ended up kind of being like, we're sorry about kind of what went down, and Bishop's kind of got his own like side thing. Because I was wondering when they set that up, I was like, is she going to work with him? I mean, granted, he's kind of in the private security sector, so I was like, would she? But it's like, nah, it seems like Bishop's mainly going to be like her inside source. I should also really quickly note, for one, I've never seen any of the Denzel Washington Equalizer movies. I also didn't know that The Equalizer was actually originally a show from like the 80s. So this is actually the second reboot, because it was not only rebooted as movies with the Denzel Washington. Now we get this reboot with Queen Latifah, which I brought that up during the watch. That's so damn dope, dude. Because like the last time you seen Queen Latifah, obviously this is very different, but even then, like you're used to seeing her in like, some comedy, some drama. So like, when you get her in something like this, like the thing that closest compared to this, and I'm not well versed in her entire filmography, but the thing that comes to my mind that's in at least a somewhat similar vein, granted very different vein, is Set It Off. So to see her in this is actually pretty dope, I was actually thinking to myself, I was like, oh yeah, Queen Latifah on TV. And I was like, yeah, stupid. She's already done TV before, Living Single. Like that was like the first, like, I think that was the first thing ever growing up I ever saw Queen Latifah in, so regardless, it's interesting seeing her in this series. And I talked about this beforehand, and I don't know if there's anyone that has connection to it. I meant to look into it, but I never did. This show definitely has like a person of interest vibe, which is not a bad thing. I love person of interest. So for it to have a similar vibe, even like some of their transitions, it's not the same transitions that person of interest use, but it kind of has that similar feeling vibe to it to a certain extent. But Robin's trying to figure out what she's going to do about her life, circling back to it, because for her, she's like, it's not even all the things that I've done that keep me awake at night, give me the nightmares. It's all the people I couldn't save, And, Bishop is like, that's actually what made you really good at your job. I guess it's because, like, I assume with the nature of, because for Robin, that's why she doesn't like the whole CIA game, because like everyone that's a part of it is chess pieces, and she doesn't like that, because it's like we get so involved with all the whole, making movies and stuff like that, we forget about the people whose lives that get lost. Like we see things as so much of a chess piece, we actually forget about the pieces themselves, the people, But he's kind of, I guess, showing that she had a little bit more compassion when it came to all of this. Granted, she kind of talked about it. There's probably some stuff that she probably looks back on. She's like, I'm not proud of it, but even then, that's probably not what keeps her up at night. So that's probably going to be something we dive into, is some of like probably a lot of the quote unquote wet work she might have probably done for the CIA. Maybe not. We don't know the full extent of like what she necessarily did for the CIA. What some of the missions she went on, like what some of the stuff they were up to. But obviously, it was like a happenstance situation. She's meeting up with Bishop. That obviously the whole Jewel storyline, where she, we had opened with like her just dumping some trash out at her job, and some guy ends up getting shot. The two people go in looking for her, but it's like, we'll take care of her later. She goes. She gets, reports it to police. She's there for questioning, but the surveillance footage shows her pulling trigger. I was like, yo, that's some crazy shit. Manipulating it like that. Also, want to point out the actor who plays, Detective Dante. I was like, yo, I'm blanking on, I want to say wasn't it Borden? I think that was his character's name, but from Colony. I was like, yo, but that didn't look good. But once again, what I was talking about, the fact is that what I mean is like it didn't look good for Jewel in that situation. I was like, man, they that's, I mean, to be fair, it's like, that's modern technology, deepfakes and stuff like that, but obviously this is on a whole new level. That definitely looked like some, like, definitely kind of reminds you a little bit of a person of interest type of thing. I mean, granted, you know, obviously this show's not going to go nearly as sci-fi as, like, person of interest is, but even then, person of interest, yeah, it had those elements of sci-fi, but it was really still a, like, grounded, like, crime drama to a certain extent. Crime drama thriller, you know, to a certain extent, but, regardless, luckily she was there to save Jewel because she was trying to get like a passport and ID, and you know Robin wants to help her, and so goes to Melody and her husband Harry, which I love that whole thing. It's like, oh, how are you doing, Harry? He's like, well, government spying on us, going through our emails, fascism is on the rise, and polar ice caps are melting, but you know, other than that, I'm good. You? Also, but it's like, apparently, like, he's dead, and Robin's the person that helped to make him disappear. It's like, you know, this is the best thing you ever did in my life. She's like, I thought the best thing I ever did for your wife was introduce you to your wife over there. And he's got that look like, yeah, you're right. That's actually that's the answer. That's the thing I should have said, but I didn't. But Melody and Harry are helping her with this, because obviously it's like looking through the footage and stuff like that. It's like, okay, whoever did this has some serious pull, because it's like the latest deepfake technology isn't that damn good to make it seem like to be able to fake Joel pulling the trigger. So Harry initially doesn't want to get involved, because it's like this type of people getting involved, whoever you're getting involved with in this, it's like, it's kind of these are probably some really, really bad people. Type of thing. Initially, he's kind of reluctant to get involved because he's like, oh, I got a good setup here. But Robin was like, no, I'm going to go handle this by myself if I have to, because what do you want me to do? Just let her drown? And he's like, all right, I'll fine. I'll help you out. So luckily they were able to set up the whole situation. Like, once again, and like I said, I get giddy about it, because I think this show could definitely be like just as great as like person of interest, because it, you know, once again, as someone who's never seen the movies, as someone who's never watched the original show either, like, you know, and I think it's to my benefit to a certain extent, because now it's like I get to just enjoy the story for what it is, because, you know, it's that thing of adaptations, you're always going to be comparing and contrasting, which can be a good and fun thing within its own right, but to me it's just, you know, because I don't know if he has I know in the movies, you know, the little bit I know, because I've seen bits and pieces, but I think Denzel Washington's character has like his assets, like people, connections and stuff like that. I don't know if he actually has a whole team, like it seems like they're setting up Robin to have with Mel and Harry, but also like having her connection to Bishop, who can pull some strings when she needs like some files and stuff, because, you know, the CIA wants her back, and it's like they'll kind of do whatever they need to kind of make her happy, to get her back, because she's really good at what she does. But nevertheless, the reason why I went on that tangent and everything was because, like, her surveillance and the bad guys, like, using Jules' phone to lead them to the location, taking pictures of them. And then, like, also, like her, like, disguising herself, first and foremost, like, going to that rich dude's, the tech billionaire who ends up being behind everything, like, going to that, like, thing, like, his demonstration of, like, his side drives or whatever, like, the automatic cars and stuff, like, her doing that, even later on showing up as a lawyer. I love you know, I mean, it makes sense. You were with the CIA, so that involved a lot of, like, jumping into different identities and stuff like that, but I thought that was such a dope element that I'm like, no, this is definitely going to be my jam, like I said, because it's got that person of interest feeling vibe to it. But it is interesting as you go further and further, finding out why the guy, the murder victim, Chance, why he was killed. And it turns out he was like a first year at like a law firm or whatever, a junior associate essentially. And it's like, but why was he, what was so important? What are these numbers that these guys who kill Chance and trying to kill Jewel, like, why are they so important? And so it's interesting as the mystery kind of developed, because it turns out it's connected to like a tech billionaire, because apparently like he's the one Chance had met with at like a club that Chance went with, and it's got the Ouroboros symbol and stuff like that. So they ended up finding out like he's connected this, and I love her just like casually just being in the car waiting for him, and there's that whole conversation about control. I think she had said the whole thing about, you know, she likes to be she doesn't like the whole automatic thing because she likes to be a bit more in control, but he's like, oh, there's kind of no such thing as control, because, you can't control every aspect of your life, because it's like, hey, like, you can be automatic and stuff like that. It's fine and dandy, but it doesn't account for the person who can swerve into your lane and crash into you. And it's like, oh, the subtle wink, nods, and villainy threat. And she's like, well, have a good day, and kind of walks away. And he ends up calling the two guys, because it turns out they're actually wanted by the government for like war crimes they committed, because luckily Bishop was able to give her that information. And I love it's like, you know, who helped you out when your ex-wife tried to go to Cancun with her boyfriend to screw you over, and who put her on a no-fly list? I love that. It's like, all right, I had your back because I put your wife on a no-fly list just to kind of help you out. And it's just like, all right, fine, here's some information. I love that whole aspect to it. But even he was telling her to kind of be careful around the situation. But what I thought was dope too is it's not just Robin that's trying to help out Jewel. Even Detective Dante wasn't all too, because he's like, yeah, things just don't make any sense. Like for Jewel, who has no records, no priors and stuff like that, to all of a sudden just jump to murder, especially like that, it's like, it doesn't make any sense. But it's like, well, clear-cut evidence, but he feels like there's more to this. So when they do eventually get her, because she showed up at her interview, which you can't blame her, because it's like, for her, it's like, well, for one, her mom was deported, so this is an opportunity, I think, for her to, you know, she has to make something up for her life, I think, not just for her own sake, but for her mom's sake and everything, too. So it's very important, because especially because this interview could lead to opportunities that if she misses this, it could, you know, have drastic effects on the rest of her life. So, but Dante brings her in being like, yeah, like, tell me what's up. Like, you know, he feels like there's more to it, but luckily Robin showed up as his lawyer and everything. Because we also got a little bit of this at the beginning, that he had gotten like put on leave because apparently he had punched a lawyer or something. And so it turns out, though, like, they had the conversation in the hallway. It's like, actually, it was an ADA. And he actually tells this really effed up story where basically the ADA was kind of leaning on the girlfriend of this drug dealer, because she had no idea what he was up to. But, like, the ADA was kind of leaning on her, like, hey, turn on your boyfriend, or things, you know, you could get dragged into all of this. So she testified, you know, gave information on him. But the ADA dropped the case because, like, there's not sufficient enough evidence. And I guess it was a case that he felt like there was no guarantee he was going to win. So he just dropped it because he didn't want to mess up his conviction rate. Because, hey, I might run for office. And home dude, you know, what he did to his girlfriend. Like, the detective didn't go into it, but you can only assume. And so for him, it's like, I believe something else is going on with this girl. So don't tell her to plead out, you know. And then even Robin was kind of caught off guard, because I'm sure for her, meeting a detective that's so, like, willing to be like, yeah, there's something off about this. Like, the fact is that he's got a mindset where he's not like, it's not just an open and shut case to him, that he's willing to, and also shows what kind of person he is. Like, the reason why he punched that ADA was just because it's like, you know, you pushed for this situation, and because it wouldn't have been because it didn't benefit you, you dropped it all. And potentially, we don't know the circumstances of, but you can only assume it might be something like the drug dealing boyfriend ended up killing his girlfriend, sadly, you know. So, but Tech Dude is sending, like, his hired guns to set up the whole situation so that when Jewel gets sent to, like, prison or whatever, like, while she's in custody, like, they were going to, like, kill her. But luckily, while she was being transported, Robin was able to bust her out. Also with Melanie on the sniper, you know, it's like, oh, how good are you with that? Because it turns out, Melanie, it seems like, Harry, we don't know the full extent of what his situation was, like whether he did work for the government, because for him it's like being dead now, he doesn't have to worry about the feds always on his back. Maybe it's something like during some of her CIA work she crossed paths with Harry, and it's like, you're an asset, so I'll help you disappear by faking your death. But it definitely seems like Melanie definitely has the government training, because she referenced like her and Robin being in Afghanistan. So it's like, there's definitely obviously a story there, because it's like, she's like, this is like my oldest friends. I wonder, have they known each other? Is it just in their adulthood that they met each other, when they were younger? Like, I'm curious the full extent of their story. But luckily came through with the sniper rifle. Granted, not trying to kill anybody because these are cops, but just enough to bust her out to keep Jules laying low. I do also like that the reason why Robin was able to kind of figure the numbers out is because she was kind of scolding her daughter, and she saw the spine of him, and she's like, library number. So But the two guys ended up capturing her and want from information for her. It's like, she's like, it's funny, you guys know nothing about me, especially as she was, because I guess she's been in that situation. So you're like, it's a little ironic. You guys are going to want to try and kill me, but it's like, you faking this ain't going to be that easy. Even if you were to try and like overdose me and make it seem like that's how I die, I'm going to have water in my lungs, so it's not going to be that good. They're like, oh, we'll find a different way to do it. But she's like, it's funny, you guys know nothing about me, but I know everything about you. It's like, the moment you pulled your gun on me at the library, I press this necklace, send a signal to my buds. Ooh, you see those red dots on you? Yeah, so Bishop comes in with the whole squad, and it's like, yeah, this situation, it's like, yeah, they've been through this before, but she's like, now you're cutting me free. I guess it was like on the other end of the shoe was on the other foot last time around. It's kind of what it seemed like she was insinuating. But I liked her like confronting the tech dude, and it's just like I like it. It's almost like this boogeyman thing that I really like. Every time he turns a corner, he finds one of his men unconscious, and her just like sneaking around the house. Luckily, Harry locking him in the car and everything, because it turns out what this was all about is that Chance found out that this dude, his automatic cars, there was a flaw in them, and 87 people have died. So that's what he's been killing. Like all this was about covering up, because Chance was bound by client privilege, so he was trying to find a roundabout way to expose what was going on. So I guess he confronted the dude about it, and obviously that's what the heated conversation at that club was about. So it's like, hey, what's one more person to the 87 people you killed? Because it would have jeopardized not only his good reputation, because he was kind of seen as like, oh, this charitable dude, because even at the beginning they were like, like this guy gives away like tons of money to charity, so he seems like a okay guy, but obviously we see it was all about protecting his reputation and his fortune, because it's like, oh, you crunched the numbers, 87 lives, what's one more on the top of it? So but luckily when it was all said and done, got the confession, got all the evidence, and luckily Joel was, released. But the detective being like, that lady who was your lawyer, have you met her before? And Joel's like, no, what did you talk about? Just my case. She was really nice. And, she's obviously saying everything Robin had told her to say. So I thought that was just kind of a neat element. But obviously you see at the end that he hasn't given up. Like the detectives got that picture of her on surveillance, but also like, well, granted, he can't prove it was her, but wonders if that was her on the motorcycle. Because she's insinuating, Joel has insinuated like, oh, maybe they had tried to attack the bus, obviously potentially kill her. But she's like, luckily I got away and was able to stay hidden. And he was like, yeah, lucky, huh? So I thought that was interesting. Like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Reese and Carter's relationship from Person of Interest. Once again, I'm always going to make those parallels, which, once again, I'm ironically, because I talked about not having the movie and the original TV show to make parallels to, but I'm just going to keep making parallels to A Person of Interest. I'm sorry, this is its own thing, but it's just, I think it's kind of cool that, it gives me something a little bit of that similar, flavor, and I like that. I mean, this episode also did a really good job. For one, us, we learned a lot about Robin, not just on like the CIA front, but on a personal front. Obviously, her and her husband are divorced. That's caused some issues with her and her daughter. Her daughter's kind of acting out a little bit just because the entire world's kind of flipped upside down. And so there's a whole like dress situation. Apparently, she stole her dress. She was hanging out with some friends, getting high and drinking. And her mom was kind of scolding her. But then later on, it's like, Jewel, she sees what Jewel's trying to do. Like, it's like, hey, I can't guarantee you that this interview is going to work out, but I'm giving you putting you in a situation where, hey, you can, I'm giving you an opportunity, to try things out. And she's like, how do I ever pay you back? By being something, And then we see, Robin has that moment with her daughter where she's like, you see all these women? It's like, what? Like, because she went to a prison, and it was like, she was asking her mom why we were here. It's like, when she was younger, when she was 17, she's like, I stole a car. For her, she got mixed up with the wrong people. It was after her dad had died, so she was confused, angry. So she just was in a terrible situation. But all it took was one judge looking at her and not seeing just like her priors, seeing her for who she was. Kind of similar to how Detective Dante kind of was looking at Joel a certain way, like being like, oh, it's just not clear cut. It didn't make any sense. I mean, I guess that's kind of not necessarily true, considering he kind of looked at her priors, but she was kind of squeaky clean. So I mean, but it was just kind of like not seeing things as kind of at face, not just seeing things as they were, just seeing someone as they are. And that's kind of the point she was, Robin was making, like, a judge saw me for who I was, not just like my record and stuff like that, but who I was, saw all of me and gave me a choice, jail or the army. And I think for Robin, that's where things took a turn. She made that choice, and because for her, it's like the system, she was trying to tell her daughter, it's like the system's basically stacked against you, because anytime anyone looks at you, all they're going to see is a young black woman. It's like things are already hard enough. Don't make it even easier for them, So I thought that was kind of a nice, because now it makes you understand why Robin is kind of as dedicated, because she luckily had someone in her corner who, like, set her on the right path, helped her out when she had no one. So it's like she's trying to repay that, especially because it's like, I have this skill set. I did some stuff I wasn't that proud of. I wasn't able to save a lot of people, but now I can help people who are not in the most favorable situation. So luckily she's got, like I said, Mel, she's got Harry at, reaching out to anyone that needs help. Like I said, plus she also has Bishop, probably to kind of lend some, I'm sure maybe there will be some crossover between that, like the whole private security job stuff he's doing. But yeah, like I said, I'm really digging it. The first episode, so I'm really excited to watch the rest of the season. I thought it was a nice dedication they gave at the end of the episode. I looked into it in case maybe you didn't. The dedication at the end, it was to one. It was an executive producer on the show, but he was also one of the co-creators of the original TV show. So I was like, that was kind of neat. It was also neat to know, like, hey, he was part of this project too, to a certain extent. So I thought that that was pretty dope in its own right. So I think he had passed away, like, I think I was reading like January 18th, so it was like last month. So I'm kind of ended this on a bit of a bummer, but like I said, I just thought that was kind of a neat thing of like, oh yeah, one of the co-creators of the original show being an executive producer on the show, on this reboot of the show, I thought was pretty dope. I think he had ties to the movies too, from what I can tell. I don't know whether he was like a producer on the movies or like what facet he was connected to movies, but I think that's pretty dope. Like, just being part of the process in whatever shape or form, you having your name. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. So, like I said, I'm very interested in continuing to see what the show has in store for us. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.